Today's episode comes to you from the recent West Coast Sauna Summit, just outside of Vancouver BC Canada, where I had the honor of interviewing Mikkel Aaland, the Godfather of Sweat, live in front of a packed room of thermal enthusiasts. It's no secret that Mikkel has been a mentor to me in sweat, in sauna, and in life. What I've always admired is his refusal to stay inside the box. Instead, he works the edges of it, where things are more interesting, more impactful, and where real change actually happens. In this conversation, we dig into 3 ideas that are front and center for him right now. Sauna Aid, a different operating model for bathhouse owners and aspiring saunapreneurs. And number 3, sustainability through his 3-pillar approach to the sweat bathing ecosystem: physical, social, and spiritual. Mikkel may be 10 years my senior, but he can hang and party with people half his age. Timeless, ageless, and endlessly curious. I'm proud to present my conversation with Mikkel Aaland. Mikkel is a 3-time guest to Sauna Talk. And if you go to saunatimes.com and check out the intro for this interview podcast, at the bottom you will see links to check out my 2020 interview with Mikkel, as well as my 2016 interview. And I encourage you to check those out. He's a real leader in the space. And, you know, one of the things I also really appreciate about Mikkel is his spirit of inclusion through recognition and acknowledgement. It's a great lesson for any of us and all of us. And I've sure learned the value of appreciating people for their contributions to this space that is growing. You know, it's a tender space that is exploding in many areas. So it's just great. And I encourage you to just take pause in your world right now and think about who has helped you along in your route. Give them a shout out in your own way. There's my challenge for you for the day, and let's enjoy the show. Greetings. This show is brought to you by Sauna Build, Start to Finish. This is a book that I wrote in 2013, now in its 4th edition. It's for the DIY sauna builder, the casual sauna builder. You may be an accountant, you may be a lawyer, you may be a father, you may be a mother. This is a slow and steady approach to sauna building, from start to finish. We go through Finnish rules, British diplomacy, American adaptability, and bring you a full spectrum guide to building your own sauna. Indoor electric, outdoor wood-fired. We cover it all. Just keep in mind the Holy Trinity: heat, steam, ventilation. We get those 3 covered, you're on your way to building a great sauna. To order the book, go to saunatimes.com. Up at the top, click ebook and get your copy today. It's sauna time.
You can stand or sit in the sauna benches or improvise.
I think we should stand.
Yeah.
Normally I'd say yes, let's sit down, but we want people to be able to see us. So cool. So I'll introduce myself. I spoke this morning. This is Glenn Auerbach here, Sauna Times. And go ahead.
I was waiting for you to go on.
I'll tell a little more, but your name and rank and seal.
Oh my God. Okay, I'm Mikkel Aaland, and it's pronounced Mikkel Aaland. You'll see it written and you'll get confused, but that's a Norwegian name. Father's from Norway. We have something there called the bastu. It's a Norwegian version of the Finnish sauna. And I'm here to talk with you, Glenn, and we have a lot to talk about, yeah?
Okay. And thanks, Val, for the introduction. The grandfather. So, I look around the room and I feel like I want to give some advice. And I have 2 pieces of advice for all of you younger folks in the room is never be the oldest person in the room. That's why I invited Mikkel. And the other bit of advice is in life, find a mentor, someone who you respect, someone who you look up to, someone who thinks along your lines and can help guide you. And I'm blessed that you are my mentor in life.
Thank you. They're good students.
Thank you. So let's kick it off. Where to begin? I guess we could talk about the origin story, and I really want you to kind of just frame up for those, most should know your origin story, but tell us about the seminal book and really what prompted that and what it is about. Tell us about Sweat.
Sure. So I said my father's from Norway, so I have already, in the DNA, this thing that a lot of you in the room have too, from your heritage. And I grew up in a suburban Livermore, right outside of San Francisco, and my father built a bus through there. And so this was just something that was totally normal for me, and of course, all around me were people who had no idea what we were doing. They knew that when I played basketball, I was the one they didn't want to guard because I sweated like crazy, because my sweat pores were always open. So nobody wanted to guard me. I was slippery. But the football team loved coming over after practice and jumping in this bus to a sauna, if you want to call it. And we all know what happens when we're exercising and then afterwards going in the sauna. I'm going to say sauna because we all know that word instead of the badstu, which is the Norwegian version. So they would go in there and they absolutely loved it. And it was a real eye-opener for me to see that this thing that was so familiar to me was so unique and special to these other people. So when I had a chance after graduating from college, and nobody would hire me, because that's what happens when you graduate from college nowadays, I decided to do a book. And I just said, I'm going to spend 3 months over the summer, go out, do a book, and I'll be,
And what year was that?
This is 1974, before you were born. No, wait a minute.
10 years old.
Wait a minute, okay.
1974.
Yeah. Before most everybody in this room was born. No, I don't know about that. But anyways, Glenn, you got to stop me if I keep going too much here. No, really.
So the book.
No, I'm going to get to the book. Okay, but that took 3 years, so it wasn't a summer thing, it was 3 years. And I ended up traveling all over the world and realizing that this thing that I thought was just, my culture, or maybe the Finnish culture, was not just isolated to that part of the world. This was a phenomena that was everywhere. I went to Turkey, I went to Japan, I went to Russia, Soviet Union at that time, and Mexico, and then the Native American in the Southwest. And I went, oh my God, this is big. This thing is really big. And it's universal. It's almost, it's common throughout humanity. And it's not just one thing. But there is a way to describe it. And it's humans going into a heated chamber to sweat. Okay, so this is a sweat bath. That's kind of the main heading. And then underneath, you have all these other variations that are based on architecture, culture, traditions, and they all have their own way of doing something. And so I wrote this book called Sweat. And by the way, in the 70s to write a book called Sweat, that was a little crazy actually, because sweat had a lot of negative connotations.
Right.
What do they say? Men perspire, women glow, and horses sweat. So anyway, we named the book. The publisher named the book Sweat. I really want to give the publisher the credit. And the book came out, and it was the first time anybody had kind of connected the dots, not only historically, but I had actually physically gone to all these sweat baths around the world. So it was like, I felt really good about, bringing something new into the world, in a way. And I was excited because in the 70s, back then, we had a bathing culture that was actually starting to take off in the U.S., North America. And there were signs that Americans who had been, in love with the shower, basically, as their bathing culture. We're now starting to open up to other bathing cultures. And there was a magazine called Wet Magazine that came out, and there were bathhouses that were being opened, and it was a heady time for us people in the bathing world that was absolutely slammed shut when AIDS hit. And this was a real eye-opener for me, something that I thought was so strong and so, powerful could be stopped by one thing. And we've been talking about, earlier today, people have been talking about things to watch out for because we are all excited now. Things are going so great. Well, things can go the other way pretty quickly. Yeah. Let me finish here. No. Stop me. That's what you're supposed to do.
That's what I was supposed to do. Rope in Mikkel. I can do that. So the book is out. How many have a copy of Sweat?
Ooh.
Okay, 2, 3. Beautiful. How many know of the book Sweat? Many in the room. If I wanted to purchase this book, Sweat, tell us a story of where one could buy the book, if at all.
No, you can't. Good luck. I wish I had a case of Sweat, because then I would be rich now. Because it goes for a lot of money on Amazon and stuff. A Japanese fellow told me he spent $3,000 for a copy.
But if people are interested in the content in the book, can they read it online?
Yeah. So it's all. If you go to my website, myname.com, almost the entire book is there for free. It's on the web, and it's also available as an ebook. So my whole idea is not to make money, but to get the information out there. This fall in September, I'm hoping there will be a facsimile published alongside a new book that I'm working on called Naked Sweat, that will allow you to buy the original copy of Sweat, but it'll be a facsimile.
Fantastic. And this is an important month and an important year. What else is going on in September, this coming September?
You're good. You're good segues. Look at the
130 podcasts.
He's the man. But we practiced before, so it looks like this is spontaneous, but we've done all this together. Wrong. In September, how many of you are aware that every 4 years there's something called the International Sauna Congress? Okay, so this is the 4th year, and it's going to happen in Oslo, Norway in September. And I'm just a big plug for this Congress, which is just an amazing event that happens just every 4 years, and it's going to bring together people from all over the world, and you're all invited. Check it out. It's on the web, and I'd love to see as many of you as we can there.
In his home and native land of Norway, I could go 2 different directions here, but we talk about this event, West Coast Sauna Summit, Sauna Days in Minnesota, Culture of Bathing coming up in a couple of weeks in New York City. But you're no stranger to gatherings and putting events together. What happened tell the group here about 2013, and that was the year, wasn't it?
Yeah, I thought you were supposed to tell about it.
You want me to?
Yeah, because
okay, that's when we met for the first time in person, and Mikkel, through Greg Noga, the idea was to take this book and make a series out of it, and it is available. This video series where Mikkel went all around to where he traveled as a young man to revisit some of these thermic bathing facilities and cultures. So that's available. Where can one watch that?
Okay, now that's easy. That's called Perfect Sweat. It's a series of 7 episodes. That's available on Amazon, Apple, YouTube, all you have to do is type in Perfect Sweat series and you'll be able to find it.
Who's seen an episodes? Great, Perfect Sweat. So there it was 2012, 2013, and Mikkel has this idea about bringing people in the space together. Talk about a man ahead of his time. I mean, this was a summit or a sweat bathing gathering in his hometown of San Francisco. How many guests were there about?
So the idea was to launch the filming of the Perfect Sweat series. So we invited 50 people from all over the world. We flew them in, we put them up. Glenn was invited, he came, and for 2 days, everyone was a speaker. This was an amazing event because a lot of things came out of it. Not only the series itself, but the 612. You claim that the 612 Society came out of that. Go ahead.
Yeah. It's a good transition to, really, we want to talk about three things, believe it or not. This was the introduction. We'll be done about 11:30 tonight. In time for one round, and we'll be done.
And some questions from the audience too.
I'm loving the comment.
But we're gonna.
It'll be around midnight.
Yeah, I do have a quick question. Being Norwegian and let's bring it right up to date today, and I'm going to put you right on the spot.
Okay.
And you're half Norwegian, half American. You spend literally half of the year in Norway, literally half the year. If there's anybody in this room, I mean, we have Jake Newport here from Great Britain, who's really dialed into the ecosystem of Britain, certainly, and other countries by extension. So I put him maybe second on the list. But, Val here and Linda, this perspective. But I want to hear really directly from you. If you had to pinpoint one or two, compare and contrast to the vibe that's happening in Norway, where you spend half the year, to the vibe that you're seeing in North America, what would be like the first one or two things that come to mind of similarity or difference?
That's really good. Well, I don't know if we talked about it. I'm not prepared. I'll wing it, don't worry. So in Norway, as I mentioned, the Badstu culture. How do I say this? So all over Scandinavia, this sweat bathing tradition existed back to the Viking time. It's been around a long time in the north. But something happened about 500 years ago, it's not exact time, but in Norway and Sweden and Denmark, the sweat bathing culture, the Badstu culture, for a lot of reasons, it just stopped. And we had over here to the right in Finland, these wonderful Finns. They're so stubborn, where the rest of Europe was dropping this tradition. The Finns said, we're not. You can't take this sauna away from us. So thank God, the Finns just kept going through the centuries, using the sauna. But the Norwegians, and I'll speak to your question about the Norwegians, they kind of forgot about it. And in the 60s, there was a little bump. It became really popular to put a Badstu in your basement. Everybody, it was in all the architecture magazines. You have to, it was kind of a status thing. And everybody put their own private Badstu in their homes in the 60s. And within a very short amount of time, and I remember this, all those Badstus turned into storage sheds where they were holding skis and hockey gear. And I watched that, because this is something, I've watched this whole phenomena for 50 years. So one of my things I've been looking for is what makes something sustainable? What makes it last? And it was really clear to me in Norway, this example of everybody having a sauna or Badstu in their home, that's not going to work. That's not going to make a sustainable culture. You need the social part. And that's something that just came back in Norway about 10 years ago with a vengeance. Suddenly the Norwegians jumped back into this sweat bathing world, but this time they came in a communal way, in a social way. And it has exploded. In the last 10 years, you can find Badstus, in every community, on the fjords, and they're always based around a community, some kind of a grouping. And I've watched this, and I can see how different that is than in the earlier time, when it was just an individual thing. And that's something that's a cautionary tale for this country. Yeah. When I was living in Finland in the 70s, the president of the Finnish Sauna Society told me, the idea is not to have the best sauna on the block. Not the idea to have the best sauna on the block. The idea is to get the block in the sauna. And don't forget that, all of you out here. This is such an important part of what's going on in North America right now. So we have this real excitement, this wonderful wave that's going on. And it'd be great if it was sustainable, it'd be really nice. But there's some things that have to be in place for it to continue. And one of those is social.
And yes, and that's the pillar. You talk about the three pillars. Is the other physical?
So good lead in here. Thank you. He's good. You know, really, I've enjoyed our podcast. We've done 2, right?
Well, this is actually number 3. My recorder's on the floor right now. And so Mikkel's number 3, this third returning guest to Sauna Talk. So,
Do I get paid the same each time?
yeah. Social?
Okay, so all with watching this thing go on for as long as I have, and observing cultures through the millennium, why does one culture hold on to a bathing tradition or bathing culture, and what happens? Why doesn't it work? What happens when it falls down? And I've come up with this. This is my own way of talking about it. Everybody has a different way of saying things, but I have this analogy of 3 pillars. And if you can imagine 3 pillars, one of them being the social, which I talk about, and I think that's such an important part of what we're doing. But there's 2 other pillars that are, I think, equally as important, and that's the physical. And when I talk about the physical, I mean there needs to be a sense that it's a safe, healthy place to go. Now, that pillar during the AIDS crisis collapsed. So this idea that it was a safe place to go wasn't there anymore. So that pillar was no longer there. And so now everything starts to get shaky. You need 3 pillars to really give it endurance. Now the third pillar, this is the one that's hard for me to talk about, probably not to this group. I think this is one group. And by the way, you guys are amazing. I've watched the questions, I've watched the panels, I've been sweating with you. One after another, you guys have really impressed me. What a special group, and kudos to you for organizing this. And I'm just so thrilled and honored to be here. Thank you. But the spiritual pillar, how do I describe that? The way I describe it is that when you go into this heated chamber, remember this, that fire, which is kind of at the core of all the sweat bathing cultures, whether fire represented by electric heat or gas heat or what, it's heat. Heat is transformative. And whatever heat touches, whether it's a raw piece of meat or a vegetable or water, it transforms it. And guess what? It does that to our bodies too. We're transformed. And in this transformation, so the barriers break down between us and the outer world. We become almost, maybe not so consciously, but on some level we understand that we are not separate. We are all part of something larger than ourselves. That's what I define as spiritual. Now, there's other layers you can put in on that, but it comes down to when you have that, you have respect. And when you have respect for something, it really makes that pillar stand up strong. If you have those 3 pillars going, social, spiritual, physical, you're going to have a bath culture that will endure through time. Take down one of those pillars and it gets shaky, and then all bets are off.
Beautiful. Sustainability. 2 more points, and then we'll open up for some questions. The second one is an operating model. We want to open this idea. Mikkel has something he wants to share about. How many in here are bathhouse owners or operators? Okay, looks almost half, a third to a half. What's your message?
I have a real detailed message, but I'm going to cut it down because I really want to open up to some questions. But this is something that is kind of really on my radar. I have a couple things that are on my radar, and this is one is a different economic model, different models for building bathhouses. And in North America, it's really clear we have a very kind of, I guess, traditional capitalistic model that I think could really, bathhouse operators, anybody interested in starting a bath would benefit from knowing that in Scandinavia we have another model. It's the cooperative bathing bathhouse model, and this is something that I'll be talking more about this in the future and developing this. But the idea is just to say to you, hey, there are other models out there, and I really think you should consider the cooperative model that has great success in Scandinavia. Limited, but some success in North America. But it's a way of building sustainable communities where you spread the ownership around and get around the issues of, profit and all those kind of traditional capitalistic words. So that's a very shortened version of what I wanted to say.
Excellent. And if you look over to the right over here, to your right, behind this gentleman here is the Sauna Aid banner. And I'd like to touch on that briefly and quickly. And where did the idea of Sauna Aid come from, and where was that moment?
Great. So we're really rushing through things, and this is something I normally spend most of my time talking about, because this is really my passion right now, is Sauna Aid. Sauna Aid is an initiative that began, well, it probably has its origins back in during the Fukushima tsunami, when the power plant melted down and there was huge radiation poisoning all over that area of Japan. The Japan Sauna Society came in with tent saunas to decontaminate people because of the radiation. There's a lot of studies that show you can, the heat, the sweating can act as a decontamination for radiation. So they brought in these tents, and it was phenomenally well received. Now fast forward, 4 years ago, Russia invades Ukraine, and I'm sitting there thinking, oh God, now what are we going to do? This is World War III or something. But you can't panic. You got to think, what can we do? I got on the phone or emailed the president of the International Sauna Association and said, we got to do something like the Japanese did with Fukushima. And we created, very quickly, condensing the story, but within a few weeks we created Sauna Aid. And Sauna Aid's mission was, at the time, very specifically to get saunas, portable mobile saunas, into Ukraine to help the people there who were really suffering. So this idea has grown. We have now created the Sauna Aid International Foundation. It's a 501c3. You're on the board, Glenn. Thank you. You're the treasurer. Where's our money? And we have been doing so much in Ukraine, and we're also now looking outside of Ukraine. We helped the firefighters in LA who were exposed to chemicals. We got tent sauna from Overland Sauna, 2 of them sent to some firefighters. We're working with a Native American group in Utah now, getting them a tent sauna. We've been doing a lot of things. The idea is, we're the give back. We're the good guys, the give back people, the people the feel good people. There's a need, whether it's man-made or a natural disaster. We want to come in and either work with other humanitarian groups, give them another tool in their toolbox. But we really think that the sauna, especially the sauna, I say specifically the sauna because it lends itself to its mobility and portability through tents. We brought container saunas into Ukraine. We brought these igloo saunas. We brought a whole variety of different types. But they're all mobile. So we want to be able to work in this area, kind of specifically. Won't work for every disaster, but we want to be the people that come in and help. And Sauna Aid needs your help. If you go to our website, sauna-aid.com, there's some flyers right here. And if anything you can give us or help us with, volunteer, money, whatnot, we are really open to hearing from you.
Yeah, and that's the key word, open to hearing from you, because your donations are tax deductible. So treasurer speaking on that one, but there's also great equity in terms of creative ideas and assets, meaning equipment or facilities. And what's really cool also is, in the spirit of good heat, knowing no borders, is that we can leverage things like here in North America. Cash. We can create fundraising initiatives and then leverage that cash to be purchasing equipment over in Europe much cheaper and bringing that to the front lines in Ukraine. And that creates this oneness that you were speaking about.
Give Jake a shout out, because Jake has been...
Jake Newport from Finnmark. Amazing. Do you want to say anything about Sauna Aid real quick?
I think what you guys do is really great. And I think in a complex world, the need for the brotherhood and sisterhood and the community that comes in sauna. We're very fortunate to know what we get from this kind of experience, but imagine what this means to somebody, in a war zone or in a natural disaster or yeah.
Well said.
Final words before questions. Thanks, Jake. Final words? Thank you.
No, thank you.
You flew up, you were delayed with some fog the other night. But you know, this is, we all come together, and I just want to say, getting together as humans, I mean, like-minded, this spontaneous stuff we can do on the sauna bench, the great connections that are made through events like this. It really is an effort to leave your home and your work.
That's for everybody.
But to do it and to be communing like this is a special thing.
It's for everybody.
So, yeah.
Did we sing now?
Yeah, we're going to sing Kumbaya.
No, final words. Thank you, everybody.
For you, final words.
Thank you so much for everything you're doing. We are in such a special space. We're a special moment in time, and it's really, I can't tell you how exciting it is for me after all these years seeing it coming to what it's come to now. And it's just, appreciate this moment. Thank you.
Yeah. We'll take it. Do we have time for a couple? If you have a question, love to have you ask on a microphone. And if you're way in the back, we can just have you shout. But someone asked something. Shout it out.
Yeah, how important is accessible bathing as an operator who charges money, but offering free spaces for people to bathe and experience sweating and joining together?
Okay, so how important is it to, if you're in the business of charging money for
A sauna experience. How do you manage that and also do things in a philanthropy kind of way?
Is that a question? I mean, of course, you can do. Why can't you do both? I don't understand.
We try to, but I think like how important is that? Was there any kind of metric of like, you know, how much and to what detriment or to what quantity or quality should we offer that kind of experience to guests? Like,
you're an operator. You need to make money. You need to pay everybody. Respect for how hard that is, but at the same time, I mean, it's teething or whatever it's called. When a small percentage of what you're doing can be give back to the community. It doesn't have to be Sauna Aid. You could have one night dedicated to some community group that needs some help. I think it's really important to build community, is to work with community and find out what the specific needs are of that community. That's good business, right? Yeah, it's just part of what you do. But you still have to make a living. There's no reason you can't do that.
Hi.
Hey, you.
Hi. So when you talk about bathing culture, and you've been in the field for 50 plus years, cultures evolve over time. So how do you see the bathing culture evolving? Where do you see it going?
Bathing culture evolving. Where do you see it going?
Yeah. Well, that's it's just built in. There's evolution. There's a couple things that are going on that I see. One is this real kind of need to have a traditional grounding. So in the Finnish sauna world, for example, there's a real effort to hold on to certain things that are very traditional, have been around a long time in Finland with the sauna. And I think that's really positive, really important. If you're in Mexico now, right? So the Temazcal, the history of the Temazcal, just holding on to, or actually digging and learning some of the history is really, really important. These are kind of grounding, fundamental things. Now, having said that, there's also going to be fusion. There's going to be variation, and the restaurants. Somebody, I think it was Aaland, that said food is often something that you compare this to. Restaurants, there's different types of restaurants, Mexican restaurant, Chinese, and then there's fusion. I think it's going to play out very much like that. There's going to be areas where you can have really interesting, mixtures of cultures, and that's going to be very exciting. And then you're going to have other pockets over here that say, no, we got to hold on to some very strong, traditional ways of doing things. It's a big tent. There's a lot of room for all of this.
That's great.
Yeah.
Anybody else? Last thoughts? Question? We'll see you on the bench. Oh, got one more. Shoot. The back of the room is great with questions. You guys are less intimidated.
Thank you for being here, and thank you for all you've done for the normal bathing community.
Yeah.
Right on. Thank you. Thank you, Mikkel. Great.
There, over to you.
Oh, he's a question too.
What a great finish.
That was a gratitude part.
Michael, that was awesome. Thanks for coming, Michael.
So we hear the term gatekeeping, right? We hear the term safeguarding. We carry the culture forward. How do you, in your mind, try to delineate what is gatekeeping, maybe what is exclusionary, what is safeguarding, what is something that is protecting this thing that we all love, right? There's sort of this tension.
Oh, that's good. That's good. So, again, it's a big tent. So, there are going to be people that really appreciate and want to be in that world where there's really, very, very specific, tight definitions and boundaries, and they're gonna be comfortable there. And I think that's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. All I have to say is that there are other people who don't want to necessarily be in that world. They want to be more, whatever, creative or whatever the word I'm looking for. We all can coexist. We have to respect each other and understand that everybody's a little bit different in their needs. And that's why what I love about having a bathing culture where people understand, I've said this early at dinner today, that some people really don't like the super hot heat of the Finnish Nordic bath. They don't appreciate super hot heat and steam. Well, guess what? They have an option. There's the hammam. The hammam is a lower temperature. It's damper. It's more sensuous. So what I want people to understand is they have variety, and they can. It's becoming a more connoisseur. Like if you don't like Chardonnay, go over to Chablis. It's just like in the wine industry. That's another way of describing our industry. There's a varieties out there, and don't just say my way is the only way. And be sure to understand that everybody is different. And everybody responds differently to heat, for example, and to traditions and culture. Let's just, open up, be relaxed, it's okay. It's okay. Don't be rigid.
Beautiful job. Good? Great. Thanks, Mikkel.